Greetings, and welcome to this week's Real Talk with ZSJ. This is a really important episode tonight, family. So I'm allow you all to get in the room, allow you all to hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, and share. This is going to be a really critically important conversation tonight, and I definitely want as many of our people in here as possible to get this knowledge. It's going to be really critical. So we're talking about, probably things that you probably have heard a little bit about, especially if you watch this channel. Many of you know I've interviewed Allison McDowell. She's talked about some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and Rumble. If you all watched me earlier, I was sharing with you all that I will eventually be migrating completely over to Rumble at some point, probably within the next month and a half. YouTube, unfortunately, and Facebook and even Twitter, unfortunately, have been forced to just do way too much censorship. The censorship to Black content creators, African-centered thinkers, African-centered political analysis is crazy. It's crazy. I said earlier to people, I've only been on Rumble for a month, and I have 4,500 subscribers. After a month, I have been on YouTube for 1 year and 3 months, and I have 3,500 subscribers. So that is actual evidence that my page on Google, which owns YouTube, is definitely shadow banned, and it is definitely being suppressed. Their algorithms is working overtime to suppress the type of content that we're putting out, which is why you hear me say, because we have to do this organically, hit the like button and share, because that's a little trick that we can do to get some organic engagement. By people physically sharing it themselves in groups, through Messenger, to invite more of our family into this conversation. And finally, let us know where you guys are tuning in from. What city and state are you tuning in from? We want to see that in the comments. And without further ado, I want to bring in my guests. We have the incomparable brother Sadiki Bakari. He is a futuristic researcher. He's just absolutely amazing. I learned about this brother about a year ago and purchased 3 of his books for my son. I really appreciated the analysis in the books and the recommendations in terms of how powerful our thinking is, in spiritual kind of health. So again, without further ado, Brother Sadiki, welcome to Real Talk with ZSJ. Please introduce yourself to the audience and welcome.
Greetings. How are you?
I'm well, brother.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So glad that you're here.
All right. So first, what I like to do, I always got to give honor and reverence to and for the ancestors.
Yes.
Honor and reverence, of course, my mother and father. A lot of who and what I am is because of my mother and my father.
Yes.
Also give honor and reverence to my teachers. 2 teachers who are ancestors. Number 1, Steve Coakley. If you're not familiar with Steve Coakley's work, definitely get in touch with his work. Is very necessary, as well as Amiri Baraka. Amiri Baraka, from the standpoint of Black art in the many different levels. That also was a very important person in regards to my development on the artistic side. Now my teacher right now, Ashra Kwesi. Ashra Kwesi is one of the best, if not the best, scholars we have dealing with history on the planet. So definitely I have to give honor and reverence to and for him. And of course his wife as well, Mary Rod. We can't mention him without his divine compliment. And others I'd like to mention as well, Delzino Wilson Debriano. So I have teachers from different, aspects of life and different experiences, and I infuse those things with my own authenticity. So first and foremost, we always got to give honor, reverence, and respect, just for how and why we're here. So I thought that was very important to do first.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I appreciate you doing that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and my
Um,
wife, of course, not
of course.
last, not least, my wife, of course.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, got to give honor and respect to your divine compliment. I love the way you
yes,
said that.
yes.
I lift up my husband often, often,
That's right.
because I couldn't really would not be able to do this work at the level that I'm able to do it without his love and support. So I get it, and it's so necessary.
Yes.
It's, yeah, that's one of the things. That's something that's really, really important to me. I have noticed, and this is just a loving critique. You know what I mean? None of us are perfect, and I get it, but I noticed that our families, in terms of our family makeup in the Black community, is certainly in crisis, and has been that way for a little while. So it's extremely important to me um, to nurture Black couples, and
Mm.
to nurture Black love, and to uplift Black love. It's so important. I've talked about Black love a number of times on this channel. But tonight, brother, I wanted to bring you on because I had an opportunity to listen to you on Carl Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who don't know, Carl Nelson is DC based. I believe the brother is based here in DC, right?
The
DC
show,
based
yes.
station, his show.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to it periodically, but I had an opportunity to listen to you on there, and I was just like, my. I said, this brother right here is on it. I said, because right now I've only heard white people talk about artificial
Mm-hmm.
intelligence, the singularity, and what is it? Mass formation psychosis, whatever, all this stuff. You know what I mean? That's
Mm-hmm.
like happening, like this paradigm shift that we're literally living through right now. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, what are the Pan Africanists talking about? Like, what are the African centered thinkers talking about, brother?
Right.
Please, I guess introduce
Okay.
this topic a little bit to
Okay.
our audience, like almost like you're feeding a baby, and then let's work up to
Okay.
what. Yeah, let's do that. I appreciate
Okay.
you.
All right.
And
So
shout
that's
out
what
to
we'll do.
Cheryl Tate really quickly. Just want to give shout out
Yeah.
to my supporters. Really appreciate you, and thank you so much for the super chat. Yes, go ahead, brother Sadiki.
Yeah. So I've been researching intensely for 30 years or so, or close to 30 years.
Wow.
Now I got involved as far as the AI technology, transhumanism, and those things about 15 years ago. Um, so I sent my work to Ashwar Kwesi. This is probably 11, 12 years ago in regards to transhumanism. And he was very impressed by the work. And basically, he told me, this is your lane. This is the work that you should do. And I agree with that. So that's what I've been doing. If it's AI or anything related to that, I probably have a ton of research regarding it. The
And
foundations
AI,
for it.
just for the audience, is artificial intelligence.
Yes,
Okay.
artificial intelligence. Um, so I've created a blueprint for our children's 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 children, our progeny. So what I do is I write, not only for the present, but I also write going into the future. So I write for a future that does not exist yet. That's what I do. And in order to do that, I have to master this notion of Sankofa, right? Past, present, and future. So I understand that the past is a part of the formula. All right. It's a part of the formula that gets us to the present to understand what's happening today, so we can understand what is going to happen in the near future or the next now, however someone wants to deal with that. So that's primarily, the impetus for how all of this, got started. It was an elder, it was a master teacher who, guided me and said, listen, we don't have African scholars dealing with this particular topic. It needs to be you. So I took that to heart and I listened to the elder, I listened to the master, and that's exactly what I did. And I immersed myself into research, um, 10, 12 hours a day, 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever it took From there, I wrote books. I did tons of lectures, tons of presentations, and things of that nature. And it's from an African center because that's what was missing. Everything as far as artificial intelligence, technology, transhumanism, the singularity, and I'll explain those things, was all coming from a Western science perspective or white people perspective. So I felt it was necessary that we understood it from our perspective and our view, and then understanding that um, our perspective and view, first and all and foremost, is understanding spiritual technology. And spiritual technology is what precedes and will always precede artificial intelligence, transhumanism, AI, so on and so forth. Those things, artificial intelligence, those things are mimicking the archetype, the prototype, the original, the primordial aspect of who and what we are as people, as well as nature. And that's what we have to understand. So once we know who we are and we're able to tap into those aspects of spiritual technology, which are the imagination, intuition, the ancestors, things of that nature, that's a spiritual technology. That is where our true power is. Um, Technology is being used to infuse us into it, meaning into artificial intelligence, into virtual reality, into social media, into all of these different things that takes us away from the power of creation, manifestation, dealing with our imagination, because the imagination is quote unquote God, dealing with our intuition, which is our God self. That voice that we hear is our own voice. It's not someone else's voice. It's your voice for a reason. It's your voice because you are a living, walking, talking, breathing so called God or so called goddess. That power exists within you. Artificial intelligence is being used to pull you away from that power. It's going to be and already is the new slavery. The new slavery is algorithms, binary codes, artificial intelligence, synthetic intelligence, virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual environment. All of these things are to immerse you away from your own divine spiritual essence, your own divine spiritual power, your own divine spiritual ability to manifest. Um, these are the original algorithms. When you wake up in the morning and blink your eyes, that's an original primordial algorithm. When you think, that is a primordial algorithm, a binary code. When you walk, all of these things that you're doing, when you create, all of these things are binary codes, algorithms. You are that genome. You are a genome. You are the blueprint. And the sooner we understand that and we operate as that, at that point, we will begin to see things change.
You said binary code. You mentioned augmented reality. What does all of this have to do with the metaverse, or is it
Okay.
connected to the metaverse? And what does that
Mm.
mean? But like you said, specific from an African centered perspective, what does that mean for us as African people?
Okay. So, yes, it's all connected. First, let me backtrack and go back to transhumanism because that's going to be the foundation for all of this.
And
So,
that's also known as the singularity. Am I right? I think I
so
heard you say that on Carl Nelson.
okay. Yeah. So the singularity, so it'll be three steps. So you have transhumanism, and I'll tell you the steps, then I'll break them down. You have transhumanism, then you have post-humanism or post-transhumanism, and then you have the so-called singularity. All right. So let's take them one by one. So transhumanism is the merging of man and machine. Now, let me be clear. When I say this doesn't mean just like cyborgs or cybernetic organisms. When you see, like in movies, you see humans that are um, also robotic, right? You see the mixture of a human and a robot. That's one form of it. But when we talk about transhumanism, you're dealing with transhumanism when you're dealing with your digital phone. That's an aspect of transhumanism because you are interfacing with technology. When you deal with your computer, or virtual reality. That is a form of transhumanism. If you're on social media, that is a form of transhumanism. So, another term is called cyborg anthropology, but primarily is transhumanism. All right. So let's go into post-humanism or post-transhumanism. So this is now when people are fully immersed into a transhumanist type of world or reality or illusion. So that's primarily what that means. So now we're talking about um, a world that is predominantly AI or technology. Now, the next phase or level would be the singularity. This is a prediction. These are white scientists and biotechnologists and so on and so forth that are predicting that in the year 2045, the singularity will occur. The singularity means that artificial intelligence or technology will supersede humans, meaning the human mind and so on and so forth. That's the singularity. Now, this is the issue and the problem with that. So this gets into narratives and things of that nature. And that's why it was so important for me to deal with these topics from an African center and to understand things like how we look at the world, the universe, nature, humanity, all of these different types of things from an African center versus a center of oppression, colonization, manipulation, and things of that nature, fear-based programming, and so on and so forth. So um, it's imperative that we are clear in regards to the power of consciousness, the power of the soul, the power of spirit, the power of that animation. Now, what I mean by that is this. So, what's the narrative coming from Western science? The narrative is that they are creating or making a soul or consciousness um, to be downloaded or uploaded, so to speak, into this robot or android um, to operate like a human, right? Now, when you overstand from an African center, we know that that's literally impossible. You have to be organic and primordial and archetypal in order to have consciousness in the soul. But if you listen to
Mm-hmm.
their narrative is going to be that they're creating this. So now they make you think that, or they manipulate you to think that um, a robot is a sentient being, or a robot has consciousness, or a robot has a soul, or a robot can feel. But those are organic aspects of a human or something that is archetypal or organic, not robots.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you have to
Well,
understand how the narrative works. So they use science.
I don't have any
They use science to create these false narratives. And I know people see it, and I'm not going to talk about um, overt 19. I don't want to talk about that. But if you
right.
understand the programming, media programming, then you understand what's been going on as far as creating narratives and desensitizing people, miseducating people, giving people misinformation and things of that nature regarding what's been going on for 2 years, as far as that's concerned, or really decades, as
Mm-hmm.
far as that's concerned. So it's the same thing with AI. So, like I said before, the purpose of AI at this point and technology is to create a society that is going to be a society controlled by algorithms. And you're seeing it in every area of human experience. Uh, Francis Cress Welsing, who is now an ancestor, of course, and Nilly Fuller, who is still with us, gave us those 9 areas of people activity. I call them human experience. Those 9 areas are education, economic, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Now, those 9 areas now also need to have an asterisk, and that asterisk is technology, because now they are already technology driven, or they will soon be technology driven. Now, there's a 10th area that I have added, with all respect, of course. That 10th area is technology. All right. So that's what we have to be aware of. So transhumanism is an agenda, and we have to understand that it is an agenda. We look at it from a standpoint of Western science and technology and gadgets and those things, but understand it is an agenda. And let me be more specific, it is a political agenda. So the things that we've had to deal with politically as Africans or blacks or whatever we call ourselves, wherever we are, um, we know they see us as one thing. Those agendas will be no different with technology. And that's what we have to understand. So when we get into, say, virtual reality, all right, which is a form of transhumanism. So when we get into virtual reality, now the thing is the metaverse, right? Facebook went meta. So now we're talking about the metaverse, these new landscapes, virtual landscapes. Now, these virtual landscapes are predicated on 5G. I don't know if people paying attention. It's predicated on 5G. Now, what does that mean? 5G is the next level technology after 4G. So fifth generation technology. So at some point, they're going to roll that out. And the reason is for these, well, it's a few reasons, but a major reason is the virtual landscapes that you will see from not only Facebook, you'll see it from Microsoft and Google and um, everybody and their mama will have virtual landscapes. All right. So we have to, be very clear why these things are happening. All right. Now, the purpose of um, these virtual landscapes, metaverses, and things of such. And I actually want to give you specifically what was said by Mark Zuckerberg. And if I can get this quote, if I don't get the quote, I'll paraphrase it.
You're
Um,
also able to share your screen if you want.
okay, absolutely. The quote from Mark Zuckerberg. Um, the metaverse, the virtual world, where headsets will allow people to immerse themselves into a matrix like world. I'm going to say that again. The virtual world where headsets will allow people to immerse themselves into a matrix like world. All right. This is important to understand because this is transhumanism. And not only that, this is what I was referring to earlier in regards to now you're infusing your being literally into this virtual world. So it's not like when you deal with social media and you're outside of social media dealing with social media. Now you're immersing yourself into the virtual world where in essence you are the virtual world. So what does that mean? That means that now it's 500 Sadiki Bakaris because in the meta world or the metaverse or virtual landscapes, you have what's called avatars or digital twins. So it's 500 avatars. Well, it won't be because I'm not immersing myself in it, but I'm using it as an example. It's 500 avatars or digital twins of Sadiki Bakari in these different landscapes. So this virtual world or virtual environment or augmented reality or mixed reality because it's all of it. The main difference is augmented reality is supposed to be the evolution of all of them, meaning virtual reality, mixed reality, and virtual environment. So that's what they're moving towards with augmented reality with 5G. All right. So that's what's happening. We know 6G already exists as a technology, it does not exist as an infrastructure. We know that 7G exists. It exists as a technology, but not an infrastructure. Infrastructure meaning the world has it. All right. Um,
Say more about why there keeps being an increase. Why does there
yeah.
so what's happening with 5G? And I want you to talk about this in a very clever way because we know we're on a Google platform. Um, in the level of censorship that usually happens. Because you alluded to it a little bit on Carl Nelson's show, and I thought it was brilliant
Okay.
because it's serious, brother. Like I don't think our people understand the level of mad scientism, if you will, is going on. These people are mad
Yes.
scientists, and we got to say that they're mad
Definitely.
scientists. And
Definitely.
you know what I mean? I just gotta say that they are mad scientists. I I
And that,
I'm
that
pained by the amount of people in our community who were victims, if you will, of this psychological warfare, because that's what it is, of the manipulation. You mentioned the manipulation. The other thing that you mentioned, and I'm gonna shut up because I want you to talk because you got all the
okay.
information, um, is how you said how they're literally redefining things.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't,
Yes.
I don't want to offend anybody here because I love Black people, period, in all of our variations.
Yeah.
But like the trans piece, right?
Yeah.
Um, talk
Mm.
about that in terms of you. I think you mentioned it on oh, you mentioned it on the show. You
Yeah.
was just
Carl
like,
Nelson.
yeah, man. Like, so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just really unpack that piece too for our people.
Woo-wee.
To like get them to make the connections, because I'm making the connections in my mind. Thank God
Mm-hmm.
critical thinking wasn't beat out of me in elementary school, because I clearly made that connection like a couple years ago, but it's
Mm-hmm.
politically incorrect to point that out.
Okay. So you mentioned mad scientists. That's easy. That's like easy work to document. I have books and books and books that document that. That's easy work. All right. So that cannot be disputed. Um, it can't be disputed, period. Now, as far as the trans portion of it, so I also deal with um, psychosexual aspects of humanity. All right. Now, when you deal with psychosexual aspects, you're dealing with aspects that are rooted in psychopaths, right? So when you deal with psychopaths, whatever you deal with in human experience is going to be an extension of the psychopath. So sex is one of them. So we have to understand that. So when we look at this whole LGBTQ 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever trans movement, when we look at that, that is an extension of psychopaths. Now, what happens is they change narratives, or they create narratives. They create guilt. They create terms to make you feel guilty if you speak against it. Terms that don't make sense, like homophobic. No one fears hom- uh, homosexuals or oneness or whatever it's going to mean. No one fears them. So the term makes absolutely no sense. But again, they create terms and narratives to create fear, to create guilt, and things of that nature. Also, it is a ploy, again, to take people away from humanity, to take people away from things like ethics and morality. Now, let's be clear. Even when you deal with AI, artificial intelligence, when you deal with transhumanism, when you deal with the singularity, when you deal with these things, you're dealing with a people who have the audacity to have ethics committees and ethics conventions and things of that nature in regards to ethics and technology. Now, how do you have psychopaths coming together to determine ethics or morals or values when they're the most corrupt people to ever walk the face of this planet? And again, you cannot dispute it. Anyone who disputes it is not very intelligent. Let's just be very clear about that. So, definitely, again, I mentioned agenda. These are agendas, and you have to know that these are agendas. Part of these agendas are to tear apart the African family or the Black family. We have to be clear about that. It's been laws to do that. It's been many different things to do that. Um, a lot of people might not like it. The feminist movement was one of those things. When we deal with European patriarchy, that's another thing. All of these things that we're dealing with that takes us out of our innate essence becomes an issue when we talk about family structure, but not only family structure, when we just talk about how we interface with the different aspects of human experience. And let's be clear, there's a war on the African or Black family, but within that, there is a war on the African or Black man, individually of the African Black woman. So there is a war against the African Black woman, individually of the African Black male. There is a war on the African Black child, individual of the man and the woman. the father, and the mother. And it becomes one whole united front and agenda against the African Black family. Technology is part of that. Don't think it's not. This is why your children will sit at the dinner table with their phone and can't hold a conversation. This is why even the military, um, the government CIA has come out talking about Generation Z and why they're not fit for the military, because they sat up in front of Sega and all these other video games and things of that nature, and they're not physically fit enough to train and things of that nature. So they're getting injured. All right. So there's so many factors when we deal with artificial intelligence and technology and how it's affecting us as a people. Also, how virtual reality affects the mind. So it's so many things to unpack as we continue to deal with this technology. Now, let me be very clear about this. I am not against technology, but nothing supersedes your beingness. Nothing supersedes you as a human, as a spirit, as a soul, as a consciousness. Nothing supersedes your connection to the source. The problem is when it becomes deified as opposed to your African beingness or your quote unquote blackness. That's when it becomes a problem. Now, what Western science does or this government does, what they do is obviously they're going to edify and deify the technology. So they're going to tell you all the great things that you can do on your digital phone, or all the great things that you can do on your computer, all the money that you can make, crypto and all these other different things. Now, I'm not saying those things aren't things that can assist a person. I'm not saying a person shouldn't do it. That's what I don't do. But what I'm doing is I'm giving you what they're not giving you, right? Everybody thought that there could be this um, income stream that white folk couldn't get their hands on. So now, and I said this years ago, right? So now what's happening? Now all the information is actually coming out that is regulated or is going to be regulated. Excuse me. They haven't done it yet, but it's going to be. So what's the difference now between that and all the other ways that you were dealing with your money? It's still controlled by someone else who does not have your best interest. Now, that doesn't mean don't get involved in it. I'm just telling you, don't be blindsided. If you can get on your phone, if you can get on a computer, if you can do all these technology things, can you give honor and reverence to your ancestors? Can you have rituals and sigils that you do every day that assist you not only for this world, but when you become an ancestor and now we dealing with immortality? Are you doing things to prepare for that? Do you even know what to do and how to do things to prepare for that? Like we have this disconnection as if the ancestors aren't part of us. But the Akan have a saying that says we are the ancestors. Now, what does that mean? You don't exist without your mother and father genes. You don't exist without their mother and father genes, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So the ancestors are in you. You don't have to see them. You are them. That power is there. That creativity is there. That ability to manifest is there. That ability to create legends, legendary artifacts, um, leaving things for your children and things of that nature to carry on. All that exists in us. So that's where we have to make sure that we're paying attention, is just knowing that the power that we have supersedes any type of artificial intelligence. And in actuality, it actually makes us, and I'm going to just be blunt, it actually makes us dumb. What's the first thing people do? You don't ask yourself, what does a word mean? You go to Google. That's the first thing people do. You don't use your own mind to think about or break down what a word means or an idea or a quote unquote philosophy or any of these things. People go straight to Google and then see Google as the source that is the main source. That's problematic.
That's extremely problematic. And you're absolutely 100% in terms of the dependency that
Yes.
you see on technology, and how we don't. I think about math, right?
Mm.
Like math is even done different now. I see in school because
Yeah.
they're so. Oh, I don't need to figure this out. I can just do it on the computer on my phone. I mean, or on the
Hmm.
calculator on my phone, or I
Hmm.
can just do it on the calculator.
Hmm.
Um, the one thing I'm interested in terms of the augmented and virtual reality and avatars and all of that. What are some of the things people can do to not fall victim to it or engage in it, to the manipulation? Because this stuff is being marketed and is going to
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
marketed to us very heavily, very
Hmm.
strategically. And then I also wanted to get your thoughts in terms of the cashless society
Hmm.
that's been predicted by 2033, and the level of insanity that that's going to bring. I mean, I feel
Hmm.
like we're going to have to go back to literally exchanging and bartering
Right.
as currency
Right.
again, because I think about myself. I'm very political. I'm very outspoken. It's almost like we're evolving into what China has,
Hmm.
which is a social credit score, where the government does a calculation
Right.
to see whether you're good or bad from their perspective,
Hmm.
and from the United States perspective, at least on paper, these people are burning their Constitution and Bill of Rights. I mean, we know they've suspended it throughout history when it comes to Black people. I think about the railroading of our political prisoners. They
Hmm.
were not afforded their constitutional and Bill of Rights as U.S. citizens, right? Just the
Hmm.
just the history of that, and so now you see that the things that happen to Black people almost in the past, almost mirroring what's happening now in terms of what you see from white conservatives mainly. Um, these subjects, these things that we're talking about, the manipulation, the things that are happening, is not necessarily happening as much in the Black community. A lot of our thinkers, who are still out there, a lot of them are not making these connections and talking about this in a way that helps us realize that we actually need to go back to some of those skills we learned as a
Hmm.
child. And I'll tell you, I was 80s baby. I hated gardening with my grandma.
Hmm.
I hated it. But it was like that was my life. I had to do it. There was no choice. I hated sitting down shelling peas with her. I mean, we're gonna get to the point where it's gonna be like that again. People need to be able to grow their own food. People are gonna
Hmm.
need to be able to be much more communal now than we are. I
Hmm.
can't believe how separated and how detached we are as a society. It is just so different. So I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to. I think I heard you say some people are going to enter this virtual world and not be able to come out. Can you
Yes.
talk to that?
Yeah. Some people are going to enter the virtual world and they're not going to be able to come out because their mind will be under full mind control. And that's what we have to understand. Um, but you mentioned something. And basically, what you explained is the new racism. Um, when you mentioned China and the US and these credit tax, whatever, what
The
you call it,
social
credit,
credit score. They call
social
it
credit.
social credit score.
Yes.
So in China, the government has a score. Surveillance
Yes.
is everywhere. If
Yes.
you are any type of activist, anti-government,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
and so they getting ready. I mean, they already did that to some extent to the Black
Yes.
Liberation Army and to the Panthers.
Yes.
But
Exactly.
now it's going to be on a grand scale. They're doing it
Correct.
now to white conservatives, honestly. Now, I don't,
Correct.
here's the thing. I don't agree, obviously, a lot with some of the things that white conservatives espouse. Like they on this thing with critical race theory. We know that the huge contingent of white conservatives are pretty anti-black. But
Yes.
one of the things that I see, and is really unfortunate, is that they're the ones that's putting up the biggest fights of this shit. And I'm just
Correct.
like, what do we do with that? I've heard some people say, and you could tell me what your thoughts is, and people probably gonna start cussing me out in the comments after I say this, but I have heard some I guess you say black nationalist thinkers say that we may need to form a temporary alliance with permanent enemies. Right.
Yeah, I don't roll
Tell
with
me your
that.
thought about that.
Yeah, that's not self-determination.
Okay.
I'm clear and I understand that we do have to deal with other people on some level. All right. But we have to dictate what that level is and understand if it's going to be something that um, weakens us, then definitely that's not something that we should be doing. So let me just say this. So whenever years ago, when I was, heavy into the on the ground activism, organizing, and things of that nature, for me, white people didn't need to be in the room. Period. If you are serious as a white person, then go deal with your people. You don't need to be in a room with us, because what happens when that white person comes in the room with black people? Because most of those people who claim that they are conscious and highly aware and all of those different things, those people are under mind control, and they don't understand that they under mind control, because as soon as that white person comes in the room, they deify that white person. They deify that whatever that white person say is right. They deify that white person from a standpoint of all the trauma that they have not healed, all the fear that they have not dealt with. So they still have this white Jesus in their subconscious mind, because most black people have grown up with some type of a fixation with Christianity and the white Jesus. So we know that. So we know when the white person walks in the room, their consciousness makes that connection to that white person, and that white person being Jesus, or that white person being God. And that's a fact. You cannot deny it when you deal with trauma, when you deal with fear, when you deal with programming, when you deal with psyops programming, when you deal with psychological programming and operations, religious programming and operations, when you deal with all of those different things, media programming. We are very clear how Africans or black people operate when white people come into the room, or we deal with white people in general. Oftentimes, people are afraid to be who they are around white people, or whoever for that matter, even other African or black people. So these are things that we have to deal with. Fear plays a huge role in how we move forward, and that's a spiritual technology piece. So for me, I don't care if we're talking about reparations. I don't care if we're talking about organizing, unity, revolution, whatever people are talking about at this point means nothing to me if you are not talking about healing. This is why we keep hitting our head against the wall over and over and over again. Everybody got bright ideas, but then when you get in the room, what are you dealing with? Insecurity, jealousy, envy, people in the wrong lane. That's what you're dealing with. But all of that is a result of the healing that needs to take place. People are insecure. People have fears. People have traumas. So, childhood trauma and so on and so forth. So, until those things are dealt with, whatever it is that we say we're doing, we're going to always come back to zero, because those things have to be dealt with. And this is an issue, and I hear it all the time about Africans or blacks from here, or mainly I should say, well, it's the same. Africans or blacks from here who go back to the continent, who go back to Africa, and they bring this European mindset. We're talking about the conscious folks. And this is what we get from the ground, from people who's there, who's in Ghana and things of that nature. People come from over here with that same entitlement, with that same American government type of arrogance and things of that nature, that same type of programming, like they're better than the Africans on the continent. And I'm not saying we don't, that's not on the other side too, but what I'm saying is the bottom line is we know that that's happening. So there's a healing that needs to take place. This is what I do. So I'm not the person who just comes on the show and say these things. I'm the person who works with people one-on-one and assists people in order to heal themselves of these traumas, these fears, insecurity, low self-esteem, discipline, how to attain goals, things of that nature. I assist people in doing these things. I assist people so they can be the best version of themselves, so to speak. So that's what I do. One-on-one. We go deep. We deal with what we need to deal with. Every person I deal with differently, because each person is different. So it's about tapping into authenticity. It's about tapping into that greatness. It's about tapping into the spiritual technology that we talked about earlier. It's about being able to tap into that. I've written books on these things. I've done trainings. I've done seminars, all of these different things to assist our people. And for me, that's what it's about. Not just talking. It's about being able to be an example and assisting our people. Not something that you read and you giving it to somebody else for them to implement. I'm talking about things that I have done myself, have experienced myself. So now I can assist other people to be able to get the best out of themselves in whatever it is that we're dealing with. So let me take the time now to just tell people, if you would like to contact me either for the one-on-one or books, I have 14 books. 10 books are print. Anyone, if you want a library of that consciousness and awareness, you can just email me. It's my name, Sadiki Bakari, SADIKI at hotmail.com. Sadiki Bakari at hotmail.com. Or you can contact me on Facebook or Instagram. It's Sadiki Bakari. So that's that. If you want the library of books, if you want the one-on-one, if you want the new book package that I have right now, that as well. So just contact me, bottom line. Now, all of this matters. I mentioned fear for a reason. The reason I mentioned fear, it's the major issue. The media is predicated on fear, on psyops programming. This is why everybody's scared, running around with a mask and doing all these different things, afraid of losing their jobs and all these things that people are afraid of because they don't see the power in themselves. See, we run around talking about we gods and we goddesses and we kings and we queens and all these different things. Well, those type of people play their own game. They're not dictated by people or governments. They're going to find a way. That's what a so-called god or goddess is, or a king or a queen. Or if you have to give up some things, that's what you're going to do. If I got to give up some concerts, cool. It's okay. Whatever it is. If I can't go to certain restaurants, great. I'm not supposed to be there. That's what it's about. It's about standing on that square and understanding that we are the true technology. We are the power, period. And we have to start manifesting that and walking in that, not just talking it, not just Facebook commenting about it, but walking it and living it. I'm dealing with people all over the world. That's what I'm here for. That's my purpose. I'm living my purpose. I'm living my vision. I'm not government funded. I'm government nothing. You understand? I need people to understand this. This is what this is about. So I'm doing my best to be an example for us to move forward so people can see that you can do it. You don't have to depend on the government. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be in fear. You don't have to fall privy to these psyops programs and distraction and Hegelian dialectics and double speak and cognitive dissonance and new age programming, victim consciousness, lack consciousness, charismatics, menticide, all of these different things, Stockholm syndrome. Be the quote unquote God that you claim to be or that you're supposed to be praying to. Pray to yourself. Pray
Keith,
about your children. Not even pray. Give honor
yeah,
and reverence to and for yourself, your parents, your children, your ancestors. Imagine if we deified our children, what would
right,
happen?
right.
Deify your children. You out here deifying celebrities. Deify your children. Deify your mother and father who raised you so you can be who you are. Despite whatever issues it may have been, you're here because of them. Heal. Do the trauma work. Do the fear work. Work on your attributes that you're going to need in order to move forward because there's no excuses. The white man is not in your way. The government is not in your way. Your mama is not in your way. The uncle that abused you is not in your way. You're in your own way at
Mm-hmm.
this point in your life. You
Mm-hmm.
are in your own way. And I got to be strong when I say that.
Right.
We got to stop making excuses.
Talk more about the spiritual warfare and how, because of our innate, what you talk about, our consciousness, our intuition, that is uniquely a human feature. Um, talk about how you believe that us cultivating that more, that power, tapping into that spiritual power, if you will, how that will stymie or prevent the singularity from actually coming to light or advancing in the way that these mad scientists are predicting.
Well, that's definitely the key. That's the key. You just said it. That is the key. Tapping into ourself, um, growing, transforming, dealing with fear, and that's a major thing. Fear and trauma is a major thing. We have to be clear. It is a major thing. A lot of people, and people may not like it, but the truth is the truth. Listen, there's people probably listening. They got the shot because they feared losing their job. See, that's fear. That's fear. And we have to be clear what that is and what that means. See, when you're not in fear, you're not even concerned with a repercussion. You're not concerned with a job. You're not concerned with if somebody come to your door. You're not concerned with none of that. You live in your life, your vision, your purpose, your focus. You're not distracted by governmental things. You're not distracted. Everybody's talking about Ukraine and Russia. For what? Why everybody talking about Ukraine and Russia? You're not talking about Somalia. You're not talking about Congo. Why? You're not talking about what's
Or
going right
Mali,
going
where
on.
the French soldiers was in
Correct.
Mali just a few months ago.
Correct. People not talking about what's going on their own block. See, this is the issues that we have. We got people focused on aliens, but have no clue on how this governmental structure works. See, this is what I mean by distraction. Fear. We want to be in escapism. And then that becomes our excuse. Ukrainians, well, we know it's okay. It's a lot going on there, first and foremost. A lot of what people think it isn't. So you got a lot of partial truths. You got a lot of lies. You got a lot of things going on. You got footage being shown that's old footage. You got images being shown that's old images. Like, so we got to understand those things too. Um, it is theater. That doesn't mean that there's not some real things happening as well. And people need to understand that. But that's, again, that's part of the programming. So it's much deeper than people think it is. So even when we deal with the news, every time people are watching the news as far as commercial mainstream, that is a spiritual war. That's a war against your spirit, your innate beingness. That is a war because what is the media? It's a wing of the military. That's what the media is. The purpose of the media is to do what? It is to program emotions, thoughts, reasoning, and behavior. It is to persuade, change, and influence. And we see what's happened over the last 2 years. People that you thought was revolutionary and militant, you don't feel that way about them now. See, time always reveals things, and we're clear about it. So we're not about the lip service. It's about what you're living consistently. And I don't want people to think I'm going hard on people for getting a shot. That's not what this is about. But I have to make parallels to draw the line in the sand. And you're talking to somebody who does not have the shot. So I have the right to speak. You're talking to somebody that was willing to give up um, concerts and restaurants and all these other type of events that they use to program you anyway. That's the reason that a lot of people went out and got the shot, because they want to go to concerts.
Yep.
Right? They want to be able to dine at certain restaurants and all the other events that's going on, that they would have to show this COVID certificate or pass or whatever it is that they're calling it. So we're clear about all of this. So I have the right to speak. All right. I have the right to speak. I speak about things I had a right to speak about. I come from a lineage of very credible and scholars with integrity.
We're trying to bring up people who have questions. I put the link in the chat. We are at almost an hour, so I want to see if people wanted to come up. We'll bring you up on screen. You can ask our brother the
Yeah.
question, and then we'll rotate a few people in to get in maybe 15 to 20 minutes of questions. I already know people are just, yeah, it's a lot of information to process. It's a lot.
We'll unpack it. We can come back and do another show or whatever it is,
Yeah,
you
let's
like to
do
do.
this.
That's no problem. And you're right. It is a lot to unpack because literally I can take every area of so-called human experience or the majority of them. And
Mm-hmm.
we could literally do a show and go in on that particular area of human experience or people activity.
Okay.
Like that's how deep this is.
No, I think you're right. I absolutely. I see a lot of what's happening, especially in the online space, because as Black people, we find out ways to organize and do things. And I
Right.
think there was a conflict in the Middle East. This was a couple of years ago, maybe a little bit more than a couple of years ago, and I believe it was in Egypt. As a matter of fact, there was some kind of
Yes.
conflict, and
Yes.
people were using social media to organize and to connect
Yes.
with people and to all kinds of things. When I tell you the United States had and made the American private companies shut that shit down in
Right.
terms of allowing it to be a tool to organize. Hmm.
Right. Huh. Okay, now watch this. This may be a different situation because it's always some type of conflict
Thank you, Ewa. Appreciate you, sis.
whenever you deal with Egypt or Kemet. It's
Right,
always something going on. But I do
right.
know some time ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was
Mm-hmm.
being reported that there was a conflict in Egypt, and
Yep.
it wasn't. There was no conflict. So what they were doing was showing old footage from the 80s and
Hmm.
conflicts that were going on in that region in the 80s, right? So this is why I'm saying
Wow.
that media, we got to be really, really careful. Um, I have tons of information dealing with crisis actors and all of those different types of things that is undeniable proof that these things are staged. It is not conspiracy theory, and let's talk about that word. It should not exist. There are two
Yeah.
words that do not complement each other. When you say
Right.
conspiracy, you're talking about something that is happening. A conspiracy
Mm-hmm.
or has happened. A
Right.
conspiracy means a group of people come together to lie, cheat, steal, and kill. That is what
Right.
conspiracy means. So something
Right.
has already happened. There's no theory about it.
Right.
Let's be clear, right? And a theory, when we look at a theory, we know that a theory is steps and procedures or processes to get to quote unquote facts. That's what a
Right.
theory is. But we already know that a conspiracy has happened. So we don't need to
Wow.
deal with theory. We're dealing
Right.
with um what is the term? Oh goodness, it's leaving me. We're not dealing with theory. It'll come to me. So
Yeah.
that's important. That's important for us to know. We're dealing with theorem, not theory. Theorem.
Right.
A
Right.
theorem has already been proven. So
Right.
5G, what we've heard for 2 years, and I've been dealing with 5G for before people was talking about 5G. 5G is actually old as far as the conversation. 5G is a theorem. It's not theory. We know what 5G is. We understand the electromagnetic radiation and all of those different things. All you got to do is look up the patents. See, people don't want to deal with the real knowledge and how we get to what we really dealing with. Look up the patents. That's all you got to do. I can give you the patents dealing with magnetic manipulation of the nervous system and things of that nature, electromagnetic radiation.
And
Um,
that's where the 5G is going to interact with the
absolutely.
technology that people got injected to their bodies.
Absolutely. Because
Lord,
what was injected in their body? See, it's levels to this, and people don't want to really deal with it because, again, it's the fear. So we want escapism.
it's a
So,
lot.
all these people who got the shot, I want y'all to be very clear. You, first of all, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a holistic practitioner or a health practitioner or any of those things. Let me say that first.
Right.
But let me be clear. Those of you who got the shot, any of them, just know you better get on some type of regimen that's going to stop your blood from clotting because it's a 3-step process. And that's what's happening to people. That's why people are having heart attacks. That's why people are having strokes because
People
of
are
what's happening.
dying.
Yes, people are dying because of
I
what's
lost my
happening.
father-in-law last year because of this show.
Wow. Right.
Yep.
Right. And that's that, the blood
It
clotting and
causes
things of that nature.
neurological problems. He had
Mm,
a grand mal seizure.
mm,
Never 75 years old,
right.
and never had a seizure in his life until after he got that
Right.
shot.
And that's the
He got both of them,
manipulation as well.
and we begged him not to get it. We begged him
Yeah.
not to do it.
So that's the manipulation as well.
But the manipulation was so strong to his age group, it was just
Yes.
it was
Correct.
overpowering.
Correct.
Shout out to everybody who has survived, right?
Right.
Um, this massive psychological war and did not go and
Mm,
sign up to be injected with technology to interact with 5G,
correct.
7G, 6G. But did you
Correct.
answer the question about what they need the 6 and 7G for?
Well, 6 and 7G are so like 5G is the 4G. It's
Mm-hmm.
the next level. It's the so-called um evolution, so to speak. So
Mm-hmm.
6G is basically going to be 5G on steroids. So what does that mean? So with 5G, I mentioned the avatars, the digital twins, and all of those different things. So 6G will be a upgraded technology. So by the time we get to 6G, which is probably 10 years, 8 to 10 years from now, um, I'm basing that off of exponential growth. So it will probably be 8 to 10 years from now. Okay. So once 6G comes, now you won't know the difference between the avatar that I'm talking about or a digital twin and the actual human. In other words, the likeness will be so close that you won't know the difference. So you could be interfacing with an avatar or digital twin online thinking it's a real person, but it's an avatar. You understand what I'm saying? That's what 6G is and where 6G is headed. So now you're talking about every G. So every generation, you're going to have obviously faster access to be able to do things, um, unprecedented internet speed and things of that nature. But 6G specifically will help as far as connecting robotics, wireless brain to computer interactions and things of that nature, holographic technology. I know people have been talking about it, going all the way back to like 2010, 2011, I think it was, with the Tupac um, projection, because it was not a hologram, the Tupac projection, but people have been talking about it since then. But all that is what is that old? I think it's Project Paperclip, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, this is old technology. And let me say that most of the technology that's being talked about mainstream is old technology, first and foremost. Most of these things I stopped talking about because they're old. I'm just talking about some of these things because now they're back into, or they're into the mainstream, as far as now people are talking about it. Algorithms been controlling things for years. Binary codes been controlling things for years. Racism, as far as algorithms and technology, been happening. People just not paying attention. I said it was the new racism 10 years ago. People said I was crazy. But if you deal with banks and things of that nature, what you dealing with? A computer. You see what I'm saying? If you're dealing with stock and all these other things, what you dealing with? A computer. You don't think they know your who's interfacing in these different particular aspects of technology? If they deal with your history, if you're dealing with the police, if they deal with your history, or the justice, criminal justice system, where's your history at? Computer. So when they starting giving bail or not giving bail, how you think they determining that? See, you think they determining it just by looking at you. It's deeper than that. It's algorithms that's involved in that. And the sooner we understand it, the sooner we'll understand what the new slavery really is. That's why they keep you enrolled in these old aspects of slavery and these old aspects of so-called racism. So you're not paying attention to what's going on because we live in the past. As opposed to learning what we need to learn from the past, mastering it so we can move forward instead of repeating it. That's why we keep repeating it. The ancestors left us things that we see 10,000 years later. So we know we can do it, We arguing over who built it. We know we built it, but we arguing over who built it. Ignorant things, as opposed to understanding the ability that we have, because again, we are the ancestors. I don't care if it's West Africa, North Africa, East Central, it don't matter. We have the ability to do these things. So for me, it's about being able to implement the scholarship. That's what it's about. So I give you artificial intelligence and technology, but most importantly, I give you the other side that's most important, which is spiritual technology. Period. Look in the mirror, deal with yourself. That's the most powerful thing you can do on the planet, because when you can do that, you can be better for your husband or your wife. You can be better for your children. You can be better for your so-called community, society, humanity, all of it. It starts with you, period.
So
And my
do
art
you?
is a major factor. My art is a major factor, right? My art itself is a
Mhm.
technology.
Right.
Everything that we do, my art should be the foundation and the framework for it. That's why it's a feminine principle. That's why it's a feminine principle, because it's dealing with nurturing, nature, birth. That's what we're talking about. That's what my art is about. That's why every so-called king and queen or pharaoh that you see on the throne is sitting on a foundation or a square or rectangular structure that represents my art.
Right.
My art is the foundation. So we need to see my art all over our homes.
Right.
That's the importance of my art. And when we talk about balance, again, as long as you keep my art in the forefront, or truth, justice, harmony, reciprocity, order, balance, all of these different things, as long as you keep those things in the forefront,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll know how to balance these things, because you're keeping my art on the forefront.
Right.
That's why I mentioned earlier, are you dealing with an altar, or whatever the situation is? Are you giving honor and reverence every morning when you wake up, for abundance, for gratitude, the fact that you're still breathing? Are you giving honor and reverence to and for those things? Or are you waking up in victim and poverty consciousness?
Right.
You control that. You waking up as a victim? You waking up talking about racism?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you waking up talking about how great you are and the things that you can do to become a better person, to
Mm-hmm.
tap into that spirituality, to tap into that innate essence, to tap into that God beingness, and so on and so forth?
Right.
Mindset, change it.
Do you recommend that people not interface in the whole virtual reality world so that they don't get stuck there? Almost like purgatory. I don't know. It sounds
Right,
real. It's
right.
crazy.
I don't tell people to do it or not to do it. What I do
Yes.
is I give people what they need, and then they're going to make the decisions that they're going to make. I will not be in the metaverse.
Yeah. Me either.
I will not be in those type of landscapes. And be clear, they're going to be different than social media. I don't
Right.
know if people understand that. This is not going to be like another social media, or
Mm-hmm.
like everybody went from MySpace to Facebook. This is not
Mm-hmm.
that. This is a totally more immersive, programmed type of environment. And this is
Mm-hmm.
not to instill fear. I'm just telling
Right.
you what it is. And
Right.
I don't think it's too many people better than me to tell you what this is. I'm
Right.
just giving it to you for what it is. Now, does that mean you can't navigate it? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you can't navigate it. But I'm going to tell you, be careful,
Wow.
because it is addiction. Whenever you start dealing with headsets and virtual reality and things of that nature, you're dealing with the imagination. But even if we
Mhm.
get even more scientific, because people say imagination and may not think of it as scientific, neurons is
Yeah, you're
scientific,
right. You're right.
neurology is scientific.
Right.
So now you're dealing with neurology. All right.
Right.
When you put those headsets on, so now you're going to start having neurological issues. If you're having neurological issues, you're having emotional issues. If
Mm.
you're having emotional issues, you're having um, hormonal issues. So you have a lot of different issues that you're going to deal with. And also, when we deal with neurology, we know we're dealing with experiences,
Right.
memory, and things of that nature. So now what's happening is certain experiences and memories are being implanted into your neurological self.
Mm-hmm.
This creates an infrastructure or foundation for fear, for trauma, for addiction, and the many other things that's going to take place. And I talk more about that in a new book. I lay out the do's, the don'ts, the effects, all of those different
Hold
things
on.
um, in the new book.
Yeah, I'm waiting on my new book. I'm excited about it,
It's
brother.
coming.
And
It's
yeah,
coming. Yeah, it's coming. It'll be shipped
yeah.
Friday.
Okay,
Yeah, so
perfect.
it's so just mentioning that I just want to thank because I know it's listeners listening that have purchased the package, and I want to thank them. It's been a very very successful run with the new book package. The book is Empower Technology to Imprint Immortality. So I'm dealing with the technology and all of those different things, but I'm also giving us a blueprint and an infrastructure for immortality. We should all be ascending, transforming ourselves
Mm-hmm.
from a standpoint of immortality, and that means many different things. And I highlight that
Right.
um, immortal meaning we should be leaving things that future our future generations can live from, whether that's physical, whether that's spiritual, or whatever it might be. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a very powerful book. A lot of people have showed support, and I'm just really grateful for that. I do this not only for myself and my family, but also, for our people
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, because nobody's really talking to us,
Nope.
and it's important that we know that. Like even in dealing with
Not about
technology,
this stuff. It's
right,
it's. I'm
right,
hard pressed to find Black people who are politicized on this.
yeah, you won't. Not people who are consistent. Like every now and then, people will do a presentation or something or whatever or interview, but to actually do that groundwork, to write these books, to do all the things that it takes to really be formidable. And I just be honest with you, like white people don't even deal with me because they know like it's thorough, so they don't even want to go there. Like when you deal with the Ray Kurzweils and all of those people who don't deal with Africans. They don't deal with y'all, us. They're not talking about us. No, they talking about us, but they're not talking to us.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand what that means. Everything that they talking about is us and our power, but they're not telling you it's your power or our power.
Mm-hmm.
Martine Rothblatt, who is you mentioned the trans joint earlier. Martine Rothblatt is a born man who um, wants to be a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the lead biotechnologist in dealing with creating consciousness, God, and all of these different things through
Mm.
artificial intelligent technology. See, people don't know these things,
Sure
right?
didn't.
Even dealing with terms, toxic masculinity and all of these different things. Those
Mm-hmm.
terms come from trans gendered people. I know they got certain terms, but trans people, it comes from
Mm-hmm.
them. See, when we
Wow.
understand these narratives, when we
Wow.
understand these narratives and how things work and how things operate, so then people become scared to just speak truth. People become scared to talk about real agendas that are documented that exist.
Yeah.
Are men acting feminine? Are women acting masculine?
Mm-hmm.
And then people say, well,
I
gender
heard
doesn't exist. But then they'll
Lord.
talk about Tahuti
Mm. Mm.
as if the laws don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
The laws of Tahuti, universal law, gender.
Woo. It's a lot. Definitely a lot to process. I'm glad everybody hung in there with us. Had some people over from Twitter on here too, and looks like Marley, she's on YouTube watching. But this is, I will say, what happened in Canada is a prelude to what's happening here, what's going to happen here. Um, Truckers,
Okay.
they could shut the whole country down if they decided not to work.
Mm-hmm.
Literally,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
yeah, like I
I
mean,
hear they got infiltrated as well.
Tell me more about that.
Well, I really can't. I'm just telling you, I
Oh,
heard they got infiltrated. I haven't done the research on it, but I mean, come on, it would make sense. We know what it is.
yeah.
We know what it is.
COINTELPRO is still alive and well.
Exactly. We know exactly what it is. But what it points to is, again, the premise of it.
Right.
When we stand on our square, there is power. But to stand on our square, first you have to stand on your square, first and
Exactly.
foremost. That's where it starts.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
that's
mindset, we got to make those shifts and change mindset and deal with the fear. Um, that's something that my wife is doing.
okay.
My wife has a website specifically. It's called fuckfear.com. Fear has a 3 in it. Fuckfear.com.
Hmm.
Um,
Put
and
that
that's the
in the
premise of the
private
site.
chat, and I'll copy and paste it and put it in the chat.
Okay, that's what that site is about,
Mm.
dealing with fear and solutions like hashtags create, hashtag love, hashtag change the algorithm,
Yeah.
hashtag research, right? So
Wow.
all these different things that are pointing towards us overcoming these fears so we can be who and what we really are.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So but yeah, she has a website, so people can go to her website and they can browse through the website. I'm sure there's some things there that they'll love. She has a lot of creative things over there. She works hard as far as that's concerned. She's very focused, when it comes to overcoming fear, and that's what we need. Like we need sisters that's about it and
Oh man,
understands what's happening.
big time. Because
Over,
yeah.
yeah,
Because if that's gonna be your compliment, you gotta
right.
be down.
Right, absolutely. So I'm definitely proud of her. Please, listeners, go to the site, support her as well. Also, you have the information to get my books as well. If you would like to do the Empower Technology Mastery System and Ascension Blueprint, the one-on-one consultations with me, you'll have a
Hmm.
month with me. So for more details, you can email me at Sadiki Bakari at hotmail.com, or you can simply message me on Facebook or Instagram, and it's Sadiki Bakari.
Got it. I did put I put the business in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it should be up there somewhere. I hit. Oh no, I didn't hit enter. There we go. It's in there now. Hit the chat.
Thank you. I
Brother, I
appreciate
want to thank you. Definitely want to have you back. I don't know if next week is too soon for you, but it seems like it will be beneficial for us to do some type of kind of series because
it. Okay.
there will be some things I want you to go into maybe a little bit more, and I'll share some tweets and things from Allison McDowell because you all are on the same page in terms of this
Mm-hmm.
independent research.
Yes.
He
Yes.
was also in the universe. In fact, I want to say where she said she went to Temple, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but she used to live in Philly, and
Yeah.
yeah, she's very interested in our boys like me. She wants them to stay out of the school to prison pipeline. You know.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe next time, but give me 2 weeks. Maybe next time we can deal with artificial intelligence and the archetypal womb, biological warfare,
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence, and the archetypal womb. Now, when I say archetypal womb, I'm talking about African and so called Black women, because
Mm-hmm.
there is an agenda specifically to deal with your wombs. And people aren't really talking about this. And this
No,
has
they
been
never
going
do.
on for years.
I had the sister on who was forced sterilized in North Carolina, and
Mm,
she said the same thing. Like just yeah.
it's heavy. Melanin, organs, DNA is heavy. It's heavy. These white women want it.
Mm, yeah, this has been amazing. So yeah, I'll give you 2 weeks. Maybe you can come
Yeah.
back, not
Thank you.
next Wednesday or maybe the following Wednesday. We can go into it a little deeper. Because I remember you mentioning that um I think I remember you mentioning that you don't believe that they will get to the singularity, or that they just won't reach it. I remember you
No,
saying that.
they won't. They
Okay.
won't. See, that's a prediction that they have, Western
Right.
scientists. Again, but that prediction that the singularity will occur, well, they have anywhere from 2030 to 2100, but they
Mm.
most agree on 2045 as the target date.
Wow.
Now, again, this is prefaced upon them creating consciousness.
Right.
That's important. A soul, and creating quote unquote God. And this is where you really get into Martine Rothblatt, the trans person that I was talking about. All right. That's when you get more into that person's research. All right. So that's something that I think people really should know. So again, it's about dictating the narrative to you. Once you quote unquote believe, I know, but once you quote unquote believe that they can create consciousness, I know that they can. Once you believe that they can
It
create
can't
a
be.
soul, I know that they can.
Right.
Once you believe that they can create God, I know that
Right.
they can.
Right.
All
Yeah,
right.
that
So,
whole it's evolved eugenics, because that whole thing with
yes,
CRISPR technology, and maybe we can talk
yes,
about this next time. But CRISPR is
yes,
nothing but evolved eugenics. Can you
absolutely it
imagine
is.
the amount of people in there going to be creating trophy babies?
Yes. I said in the article in 2011 that had um, other researchers and scientists. So you had for transhumanism against transhumanism, right? And I said in that article that um, transhumanism was biological warfare and that we will see it in the form of shots. I said that in 2011. So now we
Wow.
see what's happened in 2020. We see what happened. So and those researchers and scientists that were for it, that agenda, again, it is an agenda. I got so much hate mail. Now, of course, no one challenged me publicly, but I got tons of hate mail because what I was talking about just can't be disputed. And I was putting a monkey wrench in their agenda.
Wow.
Truth is truth. When we come from an African center, it is what it is.
It is what it is. With that, we have shared, I know I've shared a couple times for people to come in and ask questions. Um, well, there's one question here. Is that trans person married to a black woman?
Yes. Yes. So that person knows exactly who I'm talking about. Yeah. Martine Rothblatt. And it's a lot of levels to that. All you got to do is go do the research. It won't take long. Just do the research and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about and the confusion. You see the gender confusion. You see all of the confusion that I'm talking about. But again, these are people who's dealing with ethics. Mm. This is what I see. This is what I need people to understand. When you deal with psycho sexuality, these are the people who are at these conventions. It's those type of people that's determining for you the ethics of AI or technology in general. Mm-hmm. What should we be accepting of and what should we not be accepting of?
Right.
What should be considered human versus what should not be considered human? And just a side note, people who got the shot, just so it's clear, are no longer considered human. People gonna have to deal with that in the near future too. Damn. They're no longer considered human.
Why?
Because now you have nanotechnology in your body from the shot. So now you are considered a transhuman. And that will be legal and lawfully. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. So now we know what happened when black people were 3/5 of a human. Now, what you think is going to happen now when you're
Right.
not considered human at all.
Right. Right.
There's levels to this.
I watched a movie with my son, and he was like half this person that was supposed to be dead, and the other
Yes.
half he was just out doing his work. He was a police
Uh-huh.
officer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy.
And those movies, it's not science fiction.
It's right. It's the truth.
Yeah, it's not science fiction, it's science fact. They show you the technology first. And when
Wow.
they show you the technology, they at least 25 to 50 years ahead of that.
Damn.
So the technology that people are seeing is old technology. That's what I was saying earlier. That's why I have to write into the future.
I
So
was
our
told
chip
that the UK had that the UK got rid of their bans. Maybe they didn't.
bans as far as
Entering the country or a test,
oh,
having a
okay.
test. Yeah.
There's a lot of changes happening. It just depends on where you are in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it served its purpose.
Right.
People won't. First of all, because of this so-called war, people aren't really talking about COVID,
Right.
or excuse me, overt 19.
Right.
What's going to happen is there's going to be an entirely new virus that's going to come in a maybe 2 years, maybe
Right.
sooner, but it'll be a whole nother virus to keep the fear going, because at this point people are kind of starting to get over the
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah. I
And they've
mean,
remixed that
yeah, we're
so
getting tired
much,
of it.
but
Just
it's going to be
today,
another one.
yeah, just today, the governor of Florida approached a group of young people at the University of South Florida, and basically, he didn't really berate them, but he was just like, "We got to stop the COVID theaters. Take off the mask." It's just like, stop.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I mean, but just know this is a long, drawn out plan. People have to understand this. So, again, while people are living in the past, this government has a vision, and that vision
Get
is
down.
laid out for hundreds and thousands of years. That's the difference. So, they give you misinformation about history to keep
Mm-hmm.
you arguing about history.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the present, what does that do for most people? Most people end up just doing nothing, being victims, um, being in fear and those types of things, or
Mm-hmm.
reliving the history, whether that's good or bad.
Right.
And it is, and history is good, again, to know where we are and where we're headed. But living in it is a problem. We have to build on it. That's the issue. But what they're doing is they're actually living in the future that they tell you don't exist, and all that exists is the now. See how that New Age movement worked? That's the new Christianity. Because they knew people would be coming out of religion. So they had to create something for people to go into that they
Right.
could
They had
still
to.
keep them programmed. That's your New
Right.
Age movement.
Right.
That's artificial intelligence.
Mm. Wow.
So everyone's living in the now while
Mm-hmm.
they're creating a future to continue to oppress and colonize you.
Wow.
That's why I write into a future that does not exist yet. I'm creating it.
Exactly. I guess I'll contact you separately. Do you have an accountant you would recommend for us?
An accountant?
Uh-huh.
No.
Okay. Um, let's see. Somebody says reminds me of Soil and Green. I was just trying to see if there was any more. Let's see, any more questions in there. Brother, I appreciate you coming on and sharing this knowledge. Do you have another link or any link that you would like to share? I believe my RM, my moderator, I believe she might have shared some of your books and stuff on Amazon for people to buy. But did you have a
No, don't
personal
buy those
website?
books. No. Don't buy those books on Amazon. Those
Oh,
are my
okay.
no. Those are older books, and any books that people get directly from me. Amazon didn't have anything to do with the
Okay.
writing of my book or printing.
Okay.
So those are early books. Do not buy them from Amazon.
Okay.
Contact me by my email. I do all of this. I do the printing. I do all. That's why I want people to contact me.
Okay.
That's how we doing it. So contact me, Sadiki Bakari at hotmail.com. Because if you go to Amazon, the book will not be signed. I will not even know that you got the book. So Sadiki Bakari at hotmail.com or Facebook, Instagram, inbox me, and we'll go from there. One on one, same thing. We'll go from there. Fuckfear.com, my wife's site with the apparel and other things. You can go there for that in regards to the Fuck Fear brand.
Perfect. We did have that in the comments, and we posted that. So we
Excellent.
will make sure to direct people directly to
Yes.
you.
Yes. And
For the book.
I appreciate your the person that's assisting you.
Yeah.
I want that person to know I'm not being like, you know what I mean? Just
Hmm.
thank you.
No,
But
I get it.
just we're not doing the Amazon.
You're
Yes.
not doing the
Yes.
Amazon thing, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Brother, thank you. We definitely got to have you back. Maybe the week
Thank
after
you.
next, because I want you to be able to go um, into the quantum computing. I know that that is also kind of like a part of all of this. And then
Yes.
there is yeah, so like there's just a
Yeah.
little bit more, there's more layers, if you will,
Yes.
to the discussion that I'd like for you maybe to get in a little bit deeper when
Okay.
we bring you back. But I appreciate you. We're a little an hour and a half. So
Okay.
I'm gonna wrap things up. Thank everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. As I said, make sure that you get over to Rumble and sign up for a Rumble account, and then you can find Real Talk with ZSJ on there, and you can subscribe and follow me there, because I'm slowly going to be migrating and having most of the people that watch me consistently over there. So just another reminder to check out that platform. It's free. It's just another, you know, Canadian-owned social media site that wants to compete with uh, YouTube, because YouTube unfortunately censors a lot of people. So that's what I wanted to say. Brother Sadiki, thank you again. We put everything in terms of in the comments for your wife's brand, also for people to follow you and email you. We put all of that information in the chat. So
Thank
people will
you. Thank you.
probably be reaching out.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I look forward to whatever it is we'll deal with in 2 weeks. I
Yeah,
love your show. I have
thank you.
listened to your show. So continue
Awesome.
to do what you do, and it's definitely important. And with all
Absolutely.
that we're all doing, we're gonna
Right.
be
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, thank you, audience. Next week, same place, same time, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Every Wednesday, there is a Real Talk with ZSJ show. So I will see you all next time. Please don't forget to hit the like button and share this broadcast. Brother Sadiki, we will see you soon and talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.